All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to the seventh episode of the second season of the Heart to Heart podcast. My name's Hafiz, and today we're going to be continuing our deep dive into emotional intelligence by summarizing the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And today's focus will be on social awareness strategies. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Hey yo, you ready?
Please don't make this complicated. What about the time we wasted on our love? I can't keep the things we traded.
All right, welcome back. Let's jump right into it. Just want to start off with a quick reminder of what the four levels of emotional intelligence are. So, there is sorry, okay, four levels of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into social awareness and how you could go about achieving it. All right, so let's jump right into it. Okay, number one, greet people by name. It's a people like acknowledgement of hearing you say their real names. All right. Yes. Your name is the one identity that you attach to yourself, and when someone recognizes that identity that you have attached to yourself, they feel special. That's what it is. So calling someone by their name is definitely a good way of building rapport. It's a good way of honestly getting people to like you as well, because you make them feel special about it. That's what it is. So yeah, that's great. Number two, um, watch body language. So does the person make good eye contact? Does their smile appear sincere? Do they appear relaxed or tense or fidgety? The nonverbal communication cues are probably the most important thing they need to pay attention to, because someone will signal more in their nonverbal cues than they will in their verbal cues. So, for instance, if someone is in a situation where they're uncomfortable, right? Most people are not comfortable enough speaking up. So, what they'll do when they feel uncomfortable is you'll see little signs of maybe they're turning away from you, right? If they were sitting and if they were sitting facing you, they're gonna start turning away from you. If their tone is gonna significantly decrease. They're gonna try to speed up and finish up conversations quickly. You're gonna see them maybe shaking a little bit. They're definitely not gonna be holding eye contact. So it's important to look at body language in terms of their body language as they are speaking with you, and notice the change. And as change occurs, adjust your statement accordingly, assuming you're trying to make a really good point here. But also another thing to add is to pay attention to your body language, because they are also paying attention to your nonverbal communication cues. And if they sense something, whether accidentally or intentionally, or if they sense something from you, and let's say you accidentally did it and you didn't intentionally do it, but if they sense it, they're gonna automatically assume they did something wrong, and then they're gonna start feeling bad. So pay attention to your nonverbal communication cues as well, and then um, yeah, just adjust accordingly. Make sure you're not sending the wrong signals. Obviously, it'll happen from time to time, and that's okay. But generally, try not to send the wrong signals. Number three, make timing everything. All right, so avoid asking a person for something when you can tell they're angry or under a lot of stress. I love this one so much. Okay, there's a time and place for everything, but how do you identify the time and place for everything? This is the question, right? Um, if someone is not in a state where they're able to um what's the right term here, where they're able to rationally think about a solution or potential options or opportunities, don't bring up anything that requires the use of the brain, especially if it's a completely different topic, right? So someone is under a lot of stress. The last thing you should be doing in a situation like that is adding more stress to them, because adding more stress to them, all that's going to do is cause them to feel overwhelmed. It's going to cause them to feel as if they have way too much to do. And then what you're going to notice is when someone feels overwhelmed, they're not going to be anywhere near as productive. In fact, they might just completely shut off. And if they completely shut off, you're doing you and them a disfavor by adding that additional stress. So it's important to know when is the right time to bring up things and whatnot. So again, if someone is in a is under a lot of stress or is angry or is feeling down, feeling depressed, try not to add things that will further that, but rather try and help them to get out of it. And then once they're, I'm gonna use this term even though I don't think it's the best term, but it's all I could think of right now. Once they're more stable, then that's when you want to bring up things that could will go in either direction. So yeah, timing is extremely extremely important. Number four, develop develop a back pocket question. Have a question to ask in case a conversation lags. Avoid questions about potentially sensitive topics. This really, really, really helps with staying engaged with people, especially people you don't know. Because especially people you don't know or people who are unwilling to open up. But either of those people, right? Because in either of those situations, you're gonna come to a dead end real quick. Because you're gonna maybe you open up, you talk about your part. They're not gonna feel quite comfortable. So they're not gonna really, talk about. They're not gonna really dive deep into it per se, right? So because of that, you need to have questions that you ask people just in case uh, there's nothing to talk about or just the question dies, right? One of the questions that I have in the back burner myself, and a lot of you have probably heard this actually. It's I'd ask them, hey, which one do you prefer, pasta or pizza? And it's taking me pretty far. I'm not even gonna lie. But that's a question that sparks conversation. That's an example of a question that you could just have at the back of your mind. So whenever you find that there's nothing to talk about, bring that up and you have a discussion right away, right? And then honestly, any would you rather type of question that isn't too sensitive, um, because not many people are comfortable dealing with sensitive situations like this. Those are the type of questions that you want to ask, or that you want to have on your back pocket, basically. All right, number five, don't take notes at all meetings. Well, in a meeting where people interact, avoid taking extensive notes. Instead, focus on watching people's body language. Yeah. If everyone's talking and they're interacting, and you're just here writing notes, and you're not engaging in the conversation, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Couple things. People could either assume that you're not comfortable or unable to communicate. They could also make the assumption that you're, I don't know, maybe like too forgetful or something like that. But the idea is, what you want to do is engage in the conversation with everyone. You who knows, you might come up with a wonderful idea as well, right? But you do need to engage with them in that sense. Number six, plan ahead for social gatherings. Okay, on an index card, list who will be at the event along with any talking points you want to use. Also list anything you agreed to bring so you don't forget. I'm gonna be honest, I like spontaneous events, activities and whatnot. However, it's probably a better idea to plan ahead in terms of in terms of gathering with people, right? Writing down, so you could use a notes app or something like that, but like writing down the important things they need to bring. I've had it so many. I've had it happen to me so many times where I'd forget something because I wouldn't write it down. So writing it down is always a wonderful idea. It'll make sure that you don't forget it, and it'll make sure that you are on track in terms of bringing things that you need. Also, to be extra prepared, you write down the things that you want to talk about. It's really going to help you in terms of remembering the important things that you wanted to say. Because often what happens is maybe when we're at shower or we're just in bed or something, like an idea of a question that we might want to ask or want to bring up will pop up. And so what we should really, really be doing is writing them down in our notes so that we won't forget when the time comes. So that's definitely very important. Number seven, clear away the clutter in your head. When a person is speaking, focus on listening to that person instead of letting your mind wander to other things. Make it a point to try to learn something from listening to the person. I think that last statement is so critical. Believe that there's value in what the other person is saying, you're going to pay attention to what they're saying. So often, what we do is our mind will automatically dismiss what the other person is saying because it sees no value in it. This could be based off of our perception of that person. This could be based off of a previous statement that they've said that maybe you disagree with or you don't like. But either way, if you don't value their opinion, you're not going to pay attention to it. And if you do value their opinion, you are going to pay really close attention to it. And I think it's what's important. We need to value everyone's opinion, right? Or most people's opinion. Um, we need to we need to value most people's opinion. We need to be able to listen to any opinion that comes our way. Obviously, we don't have to believe in it, especially if it goes against what you believe. Then absolutely don't believe in it. But I really do think that we should be valuing the other person's opinion because after all, they are taking time out of their day to speak to you, right? And yeah, often what tends to happen, or what we tend to do when we're talking to someone else, especially if they are intimidating and whatnot, or if you've set an expectation, a pretty high expectation with that person, what tends to happen is we're gonna start thinking about what we could say next before they even finish talking about their point. And I think that is a mistake because the reason that's a mistake is because when we end up in a situation where we're focused on ourselves, we do not absorb the point they're trying to make. They might have a really important point, and we're not going to be able to absorb it because we're too focused on what we're going to say or how we look when talking to that person. So definitely pay attention to that. All right, number 8. Live in the moment. When you are around other people, be as present as possible. Okay, so quite often what we tend to do is worry about, what might happen in the future if we make a wrong step or whatnot. Or we might start thinking about the past, some of the mistakes that we've made before and whatnot. But either way, what it ends up doing is it ends up taking your focus away from the now, meaning you're not going to be able to give your all because your mind and your energy is being given to things that either haven't happened or already happened. In other words, kind of irrelevant. So, what you need to do is remember, and you need to continually remind yourself that you can't change the past, you can't dictate the future. What you could do though is live in the moment, and that is what you should be focusing on. Try and make the most out of your current situation and run with it from there. Number 9, go on a 15-minute tour. Walk around, noticing people's workspaces and how people move around the area. Try to pick up on people's feelings and how others affect your feeling. Okay, this is great for a work environment, literally perfect for a work environment. But let's assume you're not in a work environment. Let's just assume that you're not in a work environment. Okay, what I would personally recommend is to go outside, and then that's where I want you to observe, just observe nature, observe, um, especially if it's like a busy place, right? Observe people's movements, observe your movement, observe nature, observe everything that's around. Just put yourself in every single person and thing's shoes as much as you can. And yeah, I think also picking up on people's feelings is also um huge. Trying to predict what they might feel like, trying to put yourself in their shoes and be like, hey, if I was in a situation like that, obviously without knowing the backstory, but like if I was in a situation like that, how would I be feeling? Or if you see someone, let's say, who's angry, then you could potentially, be like, okay, oh, like, is that how I act when I'm angry? Is that how I want to act when I'm angry? Just notice the things around you, basically. Okay, number 10. Watch EQ at the movies. Watch some movies with the objective of watching the character interactions and conflicts. Notice how the characters handle a conflict. Challenge yourself to pick up on the clues that conflict may be building. I like this. If you are someone who's very into um like movies or like TV shows or something along the lines of that, it's great to pinpoint the great things that are done by characters in there. So like you'll notice a lot of them in their storyline and whatnot. What you'll find is that they're really good at working around a problem and whatnot. And with most movies, if you pay close attention, you could notice those subtle things that they do that make a world of a difference. Pay close attention to that. So basically, what it's suggesting here is watch movies for more than just entertainment, but rather watch it for learning purposes. And I totally agree. Number 11. Practice the art of listening. Listening requires focus. It's far more than hearing the words. Listen to the tone, speed, and volume of the voice and how those fluctuate. Are those sending a message beyond what the words say? You won't know unless you fully focus on the person. Yes, yes, yes. This is part of what I was talking with regards to nonverbal communication. An important part of nonverbal communication is listening to the nonverbal aspect of speaking, right? So, um, things like the tone. I like that. So the tone, the speed, and the volume. These are all very very important things, right? When someone's angry, their tone is not the same as when they're not angry, right? Or when they're happy. These tones are completely different. Pay attention to that. Pay less attention to the words and more attention to how they're saying it. If someone's speaking extremely fast, you could notice that maybe they're in a rush or they have way too much to say. If they're speaking loudly, chances are they're either angry or very passionate, one or the other. Pay attention to all of those and adjust per their based off of how they're speaking, basically. But you do need to fully focus on the person in order to understand that. Okay. Number 12, go people watching. Find a public place to watch how people interact with one another. Notice body language. So this ties back to point 9, which is go on a 15-minute tour. This would be the same idea, right? So just pay attention to people and how they interact with each other. Pay attention to um honestly, looking at people and how they interact with each other will give you a good perspective of how you look from a third party's perspective. Basically how someone else would look at you. So pay close attention to how many to the other people that do it and try and identify what type of image you want to portray when you're while talking to people in public. Number 13, understand the rules of culture. So when interacting with those of different culture, observe their body language and manner of speaking. If you aren't sure what behavior would be acceptable, ask questions. I love this. Yes, everyone is different. Everyone has different ways, or every culture has different ways of living life, really, right? From the little things, right? Okay, I'll give you examples. From the food is different. Different cultures have different foods. Different cultures have different I guess rituals, different beliefs, different ways of approaching things, right? Everything is different. So if you're not sure of how one culture operates and works, then it is very very important that you do educate yourself on that. And how you do so is literally just ask them, be like, hey, how do you guys do this? I do this way. How do you do it? Right? And it always helps, by the way, to start by telling them how you do things. It'll help them, be more comfortable opening up and whatnot. Number 14, test for accuracy. So, to confirm your interpretation of body language, use a reflective question. For example, it looks like you are feeling down about something. Did something happen? So, if you see someone feeling a certain way, what you should do is ask them a question about confirming whether the situation is accurate or not. It's and there are gonna be times where you get it wrong. There are gonna be times where you underestimated the severity of it. And the more you ask, the more you identify, the more you're gonna get a better understanding of how to judge it. It's like AI, honestly. The more you use a thing, the better it gets at understanding you. That's literally what it is. All right, 15. Step into their shoes. So ask yourself, if I were this person, how would I feel, respond, or react? Think about how the person has reacted in similar situations. Yeah. Um, I think we need to do this a lot more. We tend to almost always think things from our perspective, and we forget that there's two sides to the discussion. And because of that, we need to be able to put ourselves in the other person's shoes to sort of understand. We don't necessarily have to agree with them, but we need to open up to the opportunity, to the idea of understanding their perspective as well. So yeah, that is very, very important to step into the other person's shoes. I think it's crucial, honestly, that we do that. So yeah. So number 16, see the whole picture. So to see how many seeking feedback gives you a chance to see how others may view your behavior. What you intend as helpful responses and behaviors may appear unhelpful to other people. For example, others may interpret your attempt at courteous listening as lack of interest in the topic. Yes. Um, this happens so many times where you intend on doing something, right? Your intentions are completely pure and you're just trying to help this person, but that's not how they get help, right? They have a different way of approaching things, and I think it's very, very important that we do ask them to help identify what form of communication is best for them. That is genuinely so crucial. Or how we could help them. And the best, I forgot where I heard this. I'm gonna be honest, but this was so important. Ask someone how you could help them when they're feeling down, when they're not down. So in a situation when they're doing well, right? Ask them, "Hey, yo, when you're feeling down, what can I do to help you? What is it that I could do to make you feel better? Like, do you want your space? Do you prefer me to comfort you? Like, what is it that you're looking for? And when you're overly excited, do you want me to join you in being overly excited? Or do you want to kind of leave it to yourself?" All right, number 17. Catch the mood of the room. When you enter a room, scan it for energy level. How would you describe the mood? Enthusiastic, bored, somber, playful, cautious, angry? Notice how people arrange themselves, alone or in groups. Which people are animated and which are subdued? Okay. Yes, it's very important when you're entering an environment to adjust to the environment. Because if you enter a hype environment and you are not able to adjust to the environment, you're going to feel even worse because the standard has just been set much, much higher. And because it's much higher, you are way below that standard. And that's going to make you feel bad about yourself. So definitely, definitely, definitely make sure you do understand the room, catch the mood of it, understand it, and make sure you're able to adjust. If it's not a mood you could adjust, don't be there. If you need to be there, make yourself adjust to it. Um, because otherwise you're gonna start feeling bad about yourself, and then things are gonna go downhill from there. So yeah, that'll be it for this episode. Next week we're gonna be finishing off the book, and hopefully there'll be time to do a quick summary of the entire book as well, or just like my final thoughts on the book and whatnot. So yeah, I'm so excited for that. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we will talk next week.
I can't keep the things we traded.